live. I'm just telling the players it's good to go. We are coming to you live, and we have a game here between Scent on the left and Demagogue on the right. Scent is playing Brute today, while Demagogue is playing Ranger, and we're gonna see what's going on here. So I am checking out the board. This is the first turn. Our Brute player is going first. He leads off with an Awakening Bellow. Next Brute attack action card you play this turn gains +1. Intimidate. Target hero banishes face down a random card from their hand. At the beginning of the end phase, return all cards banished this way to their owner's hand. Go again. He follows up with a Barraging Bighorn. Discards a random card, triggering another Intimidate. And if Barraging Bighorn is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has Go Again. So coming in, this is actually going to be Strength 8, and because it's buffed by the Awakening Bellow. And we'll see what happens on the defense. It could conceivably have Go Again, although I think that's not going to be very important. I think it's pretty likely that we see the double block, and that's indeed what we see. This is the first turn, so blocking is extra valuable, but the Intimidate means that Demagogue can't block as much as he might want, so that is going to be some significant damage getting in. All right. Interesting stuff there. Interesting stuff. Okay, so first turn, 3 damage getting through from our Brute player's Intimidate mechanic. So Intimidate's an interesting mechanic and does sometimes lead to characters being able to inflict some damage in situations where they wouldn't be able to otherwise. But Demagogue then gets those Intimidate cards back. So the way Intimidate works is target hero banishes face down a random card from their hand. At the beginning of the end phase, return all cards banished this way to their owner's hand, so it temporarily removes some options. Okay. So now we're going to see... now, Demagogue here has a strong hand with some nice generic attacks and a really strong arrow as well. This could be a big turn, I think, for Demagogue. Throws out Scar for a Scar. Classic card here. It's an attack that costs 0 and swings for 4, and when you play it, if you have less life than your opponent, it gains Go Again. In this case, he does because he took that early damage, so 4 coming through with Go Again, pretty strong. But a Sink Below comes out as a defense reaction. Red Sink is a classic defensive card, one of the better defensive cards in the game. Not only does it block for 4, but it lets you put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck and then draw a card, so essentially allowing you to filter your hand as well as providing strong defense. I think we're going to see Demagogue follow up likely with this Ravenous Rabble that he has in his hand to get another Go Again attack here. I think he wants to just string together these attacks and do some damage, but we could see him try to go for a bigger play. I don't know. I think Ravenous Rabble is the play here. Okay, so first he's going to... first he's going to pitch... he pitches this Knock the Death Whistle to use Death Dealer. So once per turn action, 1 energy. If you have no cards in your arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into your arsenal. If you do draw a card, Go Again. So this is a interesting card here that is going to allow him to essentially load a card in arsenal, which is important because Ranger's arrows can only be fired from arsenal. Then he's going to use the Ravenous Rabble. This actually makes sense, and I think this is a better order than what I was thinking. Because if he had done it in my order, he wouldn't have seen his draw, and it's possible he would have drawn something that he would have wanted to use instead of the Ravenous Rabble. Like maybe he would get, I don't know, something else that he would need to pitch for. Ravenous Rabble reveals the top card of the deck, and it gets -X strength, where X is the pitch value. He revealed a red, so this is coming in at strength 4 with Go Again. So another strong Go Again coming in. He's managed to inflict some damage as well as using a card, and he hasn't even played his main attack yet. Additionally, he knows what his top card is. It is Nimblism, which means that he does not want to use Azalea's ability. Azalea's ability allows you to put a card from your arsenal on the bottom of your deck, and if you do, put the top card of your deck face up into your arsenal. If it's an arrow card, it gains Dominate until the end of turn. Go Again. So this is a good ability if you have cards like Ravenous Rabble are unusually good in Ranger because revealing the top card of your deck gives you information as to whether or not you're going to be able to use Azalea's ability to top deck something strong. Like top decking a powerful arrow to give it Dominate is really good. So we do see a double block here, a Barraging Beatdown from hand, as well as the first block on Scabskin Leathers. So this equipment can be used to defend. Its first block is for 2, and the second one is for 1. So blocking 5, Demagogue says, I think he's bluffing. I think he's bluffing a potential Razor Reflex here. Maybe he does. He doesn't have it, but by thinking about it like this, he might cause his opponent to be a little more worried about those opportunities. We'll see. He's going to throw his hamstring shot into Arsenal. So this is an arrow that can impede your opponent's first attack on their next turn. And sorry, I forgot to highlight the card that was actually played, read in the ledger, maybe the best arrow in the game. If it hits, the opponent can't play or activate more than one arrow during their next turn. Although, ironically, in this situation, it's possible that he could have just let it hit and then pitched to swing club, put something in Arsenal, which I actually don't think would have been that bad, but he opted to block it instead. The thing is, I don't think he's going to do more than one thing this turn, so I'm not sure that fully blocking that arrow effect is actually buying him very much. Okay, so then, so interestingly, it looks like we're seeing a attempt to regain some tempo here. So he plays Barraging Beatdown blue, and then a little interesting here. I don't know why he. I think I would have blocked with the blue one and played the yellow one instead of blocking with the yellow one and playing the blue one, because the yellow one is the same card, but it's +3 instead of +2. So Barraging Beatdown, though, strong card. Your next brute attack this turn gains. If this attack is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it gains +2, and it intimidates. So one of Demagogue's cards is Intimidate. And then, so this attack is coming in for 4. And if it is not defended by at least 2 non-equipment cards, it will be strength 6. Because it'll get the +2 from the Barraging Beatdown. Now, I do think he should have gone with the yellow Beatdown to make it a 4 or 7 instead of a 4 or 6, but that's okay. That's not what he opted to do. So now, Demagogue has to choose between either taking some substantial damage or... Why does he only have 3 cards in hand? Oh, one of them was Intimidated. Okay, so he knows he has this Knock the Death Whistle, very strong card. This can allow him to tutor for exactly the arrow that he wants, put it on top of his deck, then he can use Azalea's ability to put it into Arsenal and fire it with Dominate. Could be very strong, but we'll see. He may want to defend against this. He does also have he has a nice buff here. He could use Nimblism to buff up his next arrow. We're gonna see what happens here. Demagogue thinking about his options. Now, I'm actually familiar with Demagogue, who was a Legend of the Five Rings player. He and I both played L5R LCG, and I think he was a fairly strong player of L5R. So I haven't seen him play this one as much, but we'll see. Demagogue opting to take 6. He's going to stay aggressive. 6 damage gets in. Interesting situation there with both players being aggressive. Playing that Barraging Beatdown, I think, was an effort to try to force Demagogue to block and lose some tempo, but Demagogue is not having it. He's going to stay aggressive, and we'll see what he does. He has a pretty big hand. He could play this Rapid Fire to give his arrows he controlled go again. Yeah, I think he could potentially play the Rapid Fire to give arrows he controls go again, shoot the arrow with go again, and then play Flock. Okay, he leads off with Nimblism. Next action attack action card with cost 1 or less. You play this turn, gains +3 damage. Go again, pretty strong. I think in this situation I might use the Skullbone Crosswrap here. No, he's gonna just go for Knock the Death Whistle blind. I think I would have used the Crosswrap first, because if the thing that you want is already on top of the deck, or if something good enough is on top of the deck, you might not want to actually play that Knock the Death Whistle. Just a thought. And he does have the so the Skullbone Crosswrap is the legendary equipment for Ranger, and once per turn action, turn a face down card in your arsenal face up, opt 1, go again. It has Arcane Barrier 1, so he could have turned that arrow that he has in arsenal face up to opt 1, and then that'll let him see the top card of his deck, and if it's something he really wants, he can then use it. But this is going to guarantee that he has exactly what he wants, as he then uses Azalea's ability to swap that arrow for the card that he tutored, which is red in the ledger, the best probably the best arrow attack. Then he's going to pitch this rapid fire, and I believe he will then fire red in the ledger, which is going to be +3 from Nimblism and Dominate. So strength 8 with Dominate. That's going to be difficult to defend. Now, interestingly, our Brute player could actually defend this, which is wild. He has a red unmovable in hand, so that could block for 7, and he could block for the 8th point of damage with his Scabskin Leathers, so that would stop the attack completely. The problem being that red unmovable is going to cost a lot to play. It costs 3, and he doesn't really have good pitch right now. So because of that, it would end up being a pretty difficult situation for him. He's either going to take a lot of damage and get hit by this effect, or he's going to spend a lot on his defense. This Nimblism is really helping here because the +3 is kind of pushing this over the top to the point where it's extremely difficult to defend. Interestingly, we do see that our Brute player has not actually equipped very much armor. Okay, so he goes for the Scabskin Leathers. I think he's going to go for the full block on this one. And I'm not actually sure that's the right move necessarily, because full blocking this ability and then only getting 1 action anyway, I'm just not sure what he's going to do with it. It's cool that you can stop this attack, but he's spending basically all his tempo for his next turn in order to do so. He pitches yellow. He's got to pitch 3, so he has to pitch 2 cards to play this red unmovable, so that is going to stop the arrow, but it's going to leave him with a very limited next turn. So he does manage to block 8, so he has stopped the on-hit effect. But the thing is, the on-hit effect doesn't matter, because by taking this much, can I still play attack reactions? Yes. Ooh, Demagogue is making a big mistake here. So he uses his Snapdragon Scalers to get go again. The problem is, I don't know that there's that much that he can do with it. I guess all he can do is use his Death Dealer. Okay, so he breaks Snapdragon Scalers. He has go again, but he can't play that Flock of the Featherwalkers because he doesn't have a card to reveal. So Flock of the Featherwalkers, as an additional cost to play this, you have to reveal a card in your hand with cost 1 or less. He doesn't have one, so he can't play that. So he ends up, it looks like he's taking back the, it looks like he takes back the Snapdragon Scalers, which his opponent is letting him do. And then we're going to see that card just being put into the arsenal instead. So back on Scent's turn here. I don't know what Scent can do. So he does have his Tunic charged up. So one thing he could do is he could use this. He could pitch this, and he can't play it because of the same additional cost rule. But he could pitch this and use his Tunic, and that would give him 2 energy with which he could swing his club for 4. So he might do that to just try to get some damage coming through and hopefully force a block out of his opponent. He is actually kind of in an odd spot tempo-wise. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. It looks like he might use his Skullhorn here. Yeah, so he uses his Skullhorn. So this is a item from Crucible of War. Normally we see this being played against Wizard because of the Arcane Barrier 2, and in other matchups it's kind of a more aggressive option than the Arcanite Skullcap, but doesn't provide the same defense. So he destroys it, draws a card, and then discards a random card. And he discards, a Blood Rush Bellow. That is not what he wanted to see. Oh, that's nasty. So if he had discarded an attack, it would have intimidated the opponent, but he discarded one of the most valuable cards in the deck instead. The randomness of Brute really not paying off for him in this situation. So now he's going to either have to Arsenal and pass, or maybe go with that pitch play that I was talking about earlier, where he pitches and uses his Tunic to get a swing in for 4. Not, I think, what you most want to see when you're playing Brute here. Does go for the pitch, and there's the Tunic. So he is gonna go for the club swing to try to maintain some aggression. One thing that I like to say in this game is that tempo is often more important than damage, and because of that, I think that this sort of play where he's trying to force his opponent to maybe block or maybe he's going to get some damage through, or maybe he's going to force out a block from his opponent, but he's trying to keep the pressure on. Even when he is defended heavily, he's trying to still keep the pressure on, doing some attacks of his own, trying to get some cards out of the opponent's hand. Now, Demagogue here actually has a fairly weak hand, I think. He has a lot of attacks, but he can only play one of them as far as I know. Now, he could try to set something up where he can do, he could, like, use Skullhorn Cross Wrap, see what he's got on the top of the deck. Maybe it's something that he can swap in with Azalea to do something better. But right now his hand's not that good, so he should not be too worried about blocking. And indeed, he blocks with a Ridge Rider shot. Blocks for 3, takes 1. So one advantage of Brute is that this club swinging for 4 is an important breakpoint in this game. And I have an article on my strategy blog at towernumber9.com that covers this in more detail, the concept of breakpoints. But the essentially 4 is a point where it's going to be very awkward for many things to defend against it, because most cards are going to block for 3. Like a standard block is for 3 and a weaker block is for 2. So if you're coming in for 4, usually the opponent won't be able to stop it with just one card unless they have a defense reaction. So like that red Sink Below that we saw earlier would stop 4 damage for one card, but most cards that aren't specialized in defense can't do it. Okay, so he uses the cross wrap to look at his top card, but he actually ends up putting it on the bottom, which is a sign that it's not something that he wants. He's going to fire off Azalea's ability Blind, which is a good idea here, because he already has a flock that he could play from hand, and whatever he finds might make his turn better. So let's see if it does. Ooh, 3 of a Kind, very interesting. So that he could play this to draw 3 cards, and until end of turn you can only play cards from Arsenal. I don't know. That doesn't actually seem that great in this situation. But maybe he's going to go for it anyway. I don't know. He's not in the finest spot, but he's not in the worst spot. So okay, so he opts to use the Flock of the Featherwalkers instead. So this time he does have a card to reveal. He reveals an Endless Arrow, 0 cost, strength 4 attack. If it hits, put it into your hand. This would be an amazing card in some games, but in Flesh and Blood, where you're going to be drawing up pretty regularly, that redraw is just not as important. So Flock of the Featherwalker is red. Interesting attack here. It comes in for strength 5. As an additional cost, you reveal a card in your hand with cost 1 or less, and it gives you a Quicken Aura token with, when you play an attack action card or attack with a weapon, destroy Quicken, and then the attack gains Go Again. So the Quicken Aura token doesn't apply to this attack. It applies to the next one that you would do. So essentially the next attack that Demagogue is going to make is going to get Go Again for free and potentially allow him to do some big attacks. Demagogue is, I believe, Greek, and he responds with what I assume are some Greek letters, whatever that is. Let's see here. So his opponent asks if there's any reactions. He says thinking. Okay, he opts to use the Snapdragon Scalers here. I'm a little surprised that he did this. I'm not sure that he can get the best result out of it, but he uses the Snapdragon Scalers to gain Go Again. Now, this Quicken token is now going to apply to him immediately, so I assume what he's going to do is play that 3 of a Kind. Yeah, there's the three of a Kind being played. So then he's going to draw 3 cards until end of the turn. You can only play cards from Arsenal. And he could then pitch something to use his... Oh, I see. With these Endless Arrows... this is actually quite threatening. He's drawn something relatively powerful. So he's got to pitch something. I was about to tell them I accidentally hit this thing that reset my camera. I was trying to tell him to pitch, that he needs to pitch, but his opponent is on top of it. Sent points out that he needs a pitch here to play that. Oh, he pitches the Razor. That's a surprise to me. This Razor is actually really good in my opinion. Oh, but you know what? He doesn't actually really need it here. Yeah, that's fair. He doesn't really need it here. Okay. So what he's going to do is he now has this Quicken token, and he can come in with this Endless Arrow. And if the Endless Arrow hits, it will go back into his hand. And it has Go Again, so then he can potentially reload it with his Bullseye Bracers and fire again. So interesting situation there. Endless Arrow now coming in for 4 damage. His opponent doesn't block. It does have Go Again from that Quicken token. So it's going to land a hit for 4 damage and then go back into hand. And then there's a go again in play, so he can use his bullseye bracers to put it back and fire it again. And I think that's what I would do in this situation. Yeah, I think that's what I would do in this situation. Yep, bullseye bracer is used here. So this is an item for ranger. It provides some arcane defense, but is otherwise aggro. Destroy it. If you have no cards in arsenal, you may put an arrow card from your hand face up into arsenal. It gains +1. Go again. So then he's going to fire that endless arrow coming in for 5, and if it hits, it'll go back to hand, and it does. So that is a big chain of attacks there from Demagogue. He does use 2 of his items to do this, but he manages to land not only he manages to land that endless arrow actually twice, and I believe his first attack. What was his first attack? Yeah, he also did some damage with that Flock of the Featherwalker, I believe. So then he's going to throw, he then throws his Plunder Run here into Arsenal. This is a very strong card from Arsenal. Next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, draw a card. If it's played from Arsenal, it will also get +3. But, you know, Sent here, I think the reason that he wasn't blocking any of those attacks is he wants to try to gain the advantage and take up the offense of his own, and he has a really big combo that he can do here as a brute player. He leads off with Barraging Beatdown, Intimidating 1, then he plays Alpha Rampage. As an additional cost, discard a random card and it intimidates. He discards Massacre, which itself does an extra intimidate. So that's actually going to be 3 intimidates. He intimidates Demagogue's entire hand. So Demagogue has no options to defend against this huge attack. Yep, so that is Demagogue's entire hand intimidated, and this attack is coming in at strength 11. So there's just nothing that Demagogue can do about this unless he wants to block with his equipment, which he doesn't want to do. So that's just going to be 11 damage that can't be blocked. Yeah, so tough situation. If he had a defense reaction in Arsenal, he could of course use that, but even so, that's a huge hit, and that's the power of Intimidate here. So Demagogue goes from ahead by 8 life to behind by I believe 3 life. Yeah, that's right. So huge hit there. Nothing much that Demagogue could do about it. But the thing is, as I was saying earlier, I do think tempo is often more important than damage in this game, and because those intimidated cards come back, Demagogue is going to get the chance to do some damage of his own, set up a scary turn. Let's see what happens here. Now, we do have a he has some interesting buffs. He has a Poison the Tips in hand. So this is until end of turn, arrows you control gain. If this hits a hero, they discard a card. And he does have that Plunder Run as well, so he could potentially play both of those. He could potentially go really big this turn. Let's see what ends up happening here. I think he could throw a very powerful Dominated Arrow. He has Knock the Death Whistle in hand, so he could tutor whatever arrow he wants, play the Plunder Run, play Poison the Tips, and shoot a strong arrow that could potentially be set up with Dominate. So he could potentially set it up with Dominate, with if it hits discard, and with if it hits Demagogue himself will draw. So it could be a very scary situation for Sent here. Let's see if after taking that big hit from Sent, Demagogue will be able to throw together something strong of his own. Does lead off with the Plunder Run. So next time an attack action card you control hits this turn, draw a card. If it's played from Arsenal, the next attack action card you play this turn gains +3 and go again. Does play the Poison the Tips. Until end of turn, arrows you control gain. If this hits a hero, they discard a card, and then reload, so he can put a card from hand face down into Arsenal. He can then use Knock the Death Whistle, get whatever arrow he wants. Yep, that's what he's doing. Knock the Death Whistle. Search your deck for an arrow card, reveal it, shuffle your deck, and put it on top. And then what will happen here? So then this will be searching for whatever arrow he wants, puts it on top. Then he can use Azalea's ability to put that card, to put the card that he has in Arsenal on the bottom, put the arrow that he chose face up into the Arsenal and give it Dominate, and then he can pitch his Endless Arrow and fire it with a very powerful attack he's going to be plus 3 damage, dominate if it hits draw, and if it hits the opponent has to discard. And I just don't actually see Scent being able to stop that from hitting and forcing a discard, as well as giving Demagogue a card of his own that he'll be able to put into Arsenal at the end of the turn. This is a strong combo coming here from Ranger. I think that Ranger is often considered the weakest class in this game right now, but I think Demagogue's deck and the way he's been playing it has been pretty effective. I think he's been buffing up arrows, and he's really been generating a lot of threat. In fact, I think he has had, to some degree, an advantage on tempo throughout much of this game, which is interesting. Normally Brute is an interesting class. They can go in multiple directions. A lot of Brute decks are kind of mid-range. You can play an aggressive Brute also, for sure. You can even play more of a control Brute where you're trying to grind out the game and, block a lot, swing your club, play some, what are they called? Maybe you have some Drones of Brutality. And he goes for a Remorseless, very strong card. So if it's put into your Arsenal face up until end of turn, it gains defense reactions, can't be played from Arsenal against it. It is, of course, going to be put into Arsenal face up. And now we're going to see it again. So Remorseless here coming out. If it hits a hero until the end of their next turn, whenever they play an action card, they lose 1 life. So this is potentially going to do essentially bonus damage. And then we are going to see it pitched, the Endless Arrow pitched to fire the Remorseless. Or no, he actually opts to use his Tunic to fire it. Okay, that's interesting. So by opting to use his Tunic to fire it, if his opponent does manage to stop it somehow, he'll still have a card to put in Arsenal regardless of what, even if he doesn't get his draw from Plunder Run. So then with all these buffs, this is coming at Strength 8 with Dominate. Until end of turn, arrows you control gain. If this hits a hero, they discard a card. And then it's also going to get the +3, and if it hits draw. So he actually does decide he's going to pitch it. I think this is a better choice personally, because by doing it this way, Demagogue is going to ensure that if he gets the hit, he will draw a card that he can then throw into Arsenal, and he'll keep his Tunic charged up for the future. So Find All Spring Tunic is the item that both players are using here as their chest armor, and basically the way this card works is that if you get 3 tokens on it, it gets 1 counter at the start of each turn. If you choose to do so, you do have to remember to use it. And then once it has all 3, you can remove them as an instant to gain 1 energy. Only 3 damage blocked, just that barraging Bighorn. So then that's going to be 5 damage gets through. That does give Demagogue the card draw, and it is also going to force a discard from Scent, and he's been hit by the Remorseless, which means that until the end of his next turn, whenever he plays an action, he will lose 1 life. So really, really bad situation, quite frankly. Not what you want to have happen. I think his best option is probably just going to be to pitch that Sand Sketched plan, swing his club, throw the Barraging Beatdown into Arsenal, and then he hasn't played an action because swinging with your weapon isn't playing an action card, it's making a weapon attack. And so he won't take any bonus damage. He'll have a card in Arsenal, but it's not going to win him back the overall tempo, where which is definitely turned against him here. So let's see what's happening. And we know there's a Razor Reflex in Arsenal, which is the card that he drew. Razor Reflex is a very staple card in a lot of decks. It costs 1 and it's an attack reaction. You can choose to either give a Sword or Dagger weapon attack +3, or give an attack action card with cost 1 or less +3, and if it hits, it gains Go Again. This is a very strong card for Warrior. I play 3 copies. Sometimes I play more than 3 copies, as I play both the reds and some yellows sometimes. But the versatility of this card in decks that have Sword or Dagger attacks, Warrior or Ninja that is, where you can use it on either your weapon or on your attack action, that's pretty sweet. And then, oh, interesting. Okay, so he takes 1. He's decided he's going to go aggressive. So he does play the red Beatdown. If this attack is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it gains +4. So I think he's trying to retake tempo here. He's saying, okay, I'll take that extra 1 damage. I won't have a card in Arsenal for my next turn, but I've got to stop my opponent from doing full turns. What can I do that's going to stop my opponent from doing full turns? I'll throw out this Beatdown. Beatdown red is a very strong card. Maybe he's just going to block 2. But if he just blocks 2, that's going to be 2 cards that he can't use against me. Maybe I can get some tempo back. And that's fair. I do think that, unfortunately, it does seem like there are some extra cards here in Demagogue's hand that he could afford to block with if he wants. He might just take the damage, but that would be starting to get him pretty low. The thing about playing against Brute is that you can't afford to get too low on life, because there is a possibility that they're going to do a 3 or 4 Intimidate turn, take away your defensive options and hit you really hard. Earlier we saw, I think, 11 unblockable damage, and they can actually get more than that if they have a if they have a situation where they're going to pull off a Blood Rush Bellow or whatever, they could potentially do more than that. So we are going to see a double block, so 5 damage blocked there. That is going to prevent the beatdown, but it does mean that Scent has won a bit of tempo back. He's won a bit of tempo back with that. He did take 1 damage in doing it from the Remorseless that still had its on hit effect applied, but he has a bit of tempo back, and maybe he's going to be able to turn this around. We'll see. Demagogue here doesn't have an arrow, which is an awkward spot to be in as a ranger. I think we're going to see the Skullbone Crosswrap being used. I would have not defended with this Remorseless. I think he wants that in his hand, but I don't know. That's not. Looks like he keeps that on top of his deck, which means that it's probably something strong to use with Azalea's ability here. So I think we're going to see Azalea's ability being played. Yeah, I'm not sure I would have blocked the way that Demagogue did here. I think I would have liked to keep. I would have liked to keep a Razor maybe, and I think I would have liked to keep an arrow, but he hits a Hamstring Shot here, pretty good. So Hamstring Shot, if it hits a hero, their first attack during their next turn costs an additional 1 to play. So he could potentially use Poison the Tips here, and then play Hamstring Shot with his Tunic, and it would be 5. If it would hit, it would not only make the next attack more expensive, but it would also force a discard. And then he could put Plunder Run into his arsenal for next turn. I think that's probably what I would be looking to do here. Looks like he's not going for the Poison the Tips. Or, okay, so he is going for the Poison the Tips. Just kidding. Scent asks me, I'm not sure what's up. So Scent asks if defense reactions play from hand count as the 1 card that you can play against a dominate attack. I say yes, and he says okay. So this is coming in. So this is strength. It is, if this hits a hero, they discard a card, and it is strength 5. And it has Dominate also from Azalea's ability. So, there's only one card. There's only one card here that Scent can use to defend against this, which does mean it's going to land and force a discard as well as an on-hit effect, unless he blocks with his Tunic. I have to say, I think Scent made a considerable mistake here by equipping this Skullhorn instead of an item with physical defense. You really want to have physical armor. Against a Ranger's on-hit effect, because Dominate is going to make it so you can only block with 1 card from hand, but you could block with 1 card from hand plus equipment. I also think that he used his leathers somewhat unnecessarily in fully defending against red in the Ledger when its on-hit effect didn't matter very much. So he takes 1, so he suffers the penalty from this Hamstring Shot, and he has to discard 1 from hand thanks to Poison the Tips. So this is really going to cost him actually a large amount of tempo. It's a tough situation. He does get to choose, I believe. Yeah, it's his choice what card to discard. So we'll see what happens here. But I think that was a hard hit to take for Scent here, because not only is he taking some damage, even if it's just 1, his next turn is going to be significantly impeded, as he's going to have to discard a card, and additionally the first attack that he makes during his next turn will cost an additional 1 energy. I think under this situation, it depends on if he wants to go for the offense or if he wants to build up. So one thing he could do is he could... Oh, you know what? He's actually going to have his Tunic next turn, so he doesn't really care which of these cards he discards, as long as it's not beatdown. Either way, he would be able to... I think personally I would pitch the... I think I would pitch the Wrecker Romp, or I would discard the Wrecker Romp, and then on my turn I could pitch the blue... So he has a blue, a yellow, and a red. And if he wants to swing his club, it's going to cost 3 because of the Hamstring Shot effect. I think in this situation, he discards the blue. I'm a little surprised by that. He says wait. No, never mind. We're good. Okay, yeah, I think I would have discarded the yellow. Then on my turn, I could play the barraging beatdown and then use the tunic. Then pitch the blue and swing club without using the tunic. Because he did it this way, he's going to have to use his tunic if he wants to make that club swing, or pitch both the cards in his hand. And I think that's just substantially worse than using the blue card to pitch. Sent, if you're watching this after the game, no disrespect. I'm not saying you're bad or whatever. I'm just trying to point out a line of play that I would have preferred in this situation. Um, he does have the ability to use the tunic, so he can still make that play. But he could also have made the play and kept his tunic charged up if he had discarded the yellow instead of the blue. But maybe he wants to keep the yellow for later in the game. That's also an interesting option. There's some situations where it's just like, oh, well, this card is strong. This card is strong later, so I want to pitch with it instead of discarding it. So it looks like he is going to pitch that yellow, use his tunic for the third energy, and then swing. So he's coming in here. This is only 4. This weapon does go up to strength 5 if he's discarded a card with 6 or more, but he hasn't. And then with the red beatdown, it is going to go up to 8 if it's not defended by at least 2 non-equipment cards, which does mean that Demagogue is going to have to either defend or take a big chunk of damage. These barraging beatdowns hopefully for Scent gonna give him some tempo back here, but I'm not sure it's gonna be enough. He's been on the back foot for some time this game. Sorry, it looks like the camera got slightly out of position. There we go. Now Demagogue could just take damage, or he could even block with 1 card only. The question is what he wants to do on his next turn. I might block with Searing Shot and 3 of a Kind. I think that's what I would do here. What does he have in Arsenal? Plunder Run. Maybe he doesn't need the take aim. I don't know. I think I do double block this. I think I do double block this. Yeah, so I think actually I think I would block with the 3 of a Kind and then probably either the Searing Shot or take aim. That's a little more, that's a little more your option, I think. And then on my turn, I could do Plunder Run. I could do Skullbone Crosswrap, see what the top card is. If it's a good arrow, keep it there. Then I could do. I think you keep the Searing Shot. Oh, but he decides that he's going to just take the damage. This could be a big turn for Demagogue that he's playing out here. I think I would probably have double blocked and kept the Searing Shot. But he has that. He doesn't even need that. Yeah, because he has the knock. So he can get whatever arrow he wants. So I think I would have. Yeah, I think I would have double blocked with 3 of a Kind and with Searing Shot and kept the take aim. Or no, because he needs something for energy. I don't know. Well, it's an interesting situation for us all. Okay, so he plays Plunder Run. So this is +3 as it was played from Arsenal. Next attack action card he plays will get +3 and it will draw a card. Then he plays Take Aim. Next ranger attack action card you play this turn gets +2 and it reloads. Then he plays Knock the Death Whistle. He's going to find whatever arrow he wants, shuffle the deck, and put it on top. And then he's going to use Azalea's ability to load it and pitch this to fire it. And then he's going to have a powerful arrow coming in with +5 and Dominate. So very scary situation here for Scent. Scent says, don't forget your tunic. Now, that's a gentlemanly reminder there. Tunic is not mandatory. It is possible to forget it. He gets the infamous red in the ledger, probably the best arrow in the game. I think he forgot to shuffle. All right, now I remember to shuffle. Okay, so then red in the ledger here, probably going to be revealed with Azalea's ability, and then it's basically the best arrow because Go Again is so fundamental in this game. So all these things have Go Again at the end, allowing you to play them and then do something else. So having this arrow hit you, which removes your ability to play or activate more than one action during your next turn, is really going to limit what most decks can do. If you're just going to throw out one huge attack like Guardian or something, it's not that big a deal. But even then, Guardian might want to use their Tectonic Plating. They might play some Aura with Go Again. Only having one thing is scary. So yeah, this is 10 dominate if it hit, and if it hits, Demagogue will draw, and also it has a really nasty effect. And there's just no way, there's no way for his opponent to stop this. It's 10 damage. So he's going to block with Beast Within. That is going to block it for 3. So that's 7 damage gets through. He's only going to have 1 action on his next turn. And Demagogue draws a card from that Plunder run, which he can then throw into his arsenal and be ready for the next turn. So we really are seeing Demagogue's Ranger here, I think, has a pretty strong advantage in this game. I think he's really been doing a lot, but he's gotten very low. He is in that danger zone where one big combo from Brute could end the game. So Demagogue has been doing a good job of keeping the damage going, keeping the pressure on. He's ahead on tempo significantly. He's ahead on life as well, but there is that risk that Brute is going to get off a big combo and just end the game with a bunch of cards intimidated from hand and no options for the defense. However, on this turn, he's certainly not going to do it because he can only play or activate 1 action thanks to being hit by that red in the ledger. Okay, let's see what's going to happen next here. Victor Mega 1, thanks for the follow. Much appreciated. And then let's see what's going to happen next. Looks like Sent is looking through... He's looking through his opponent's discard pile there, maybe trying to gauge what options are going to be available, whether there's some defense coming. Now, he can throw out a big attack of his own this turn, so that is going to be nice, but because there's only going to be 1 action, it's really just like, throw something big out there, and that's all you got. This Breakneck Battery, the problem is, so 2 of these cards have Go Again effects, so the Barraging Bighorn and the Breakneck Battery are both going to potentially allow him to go again, but that Go Again is just not relevant because it the Go Again is just not relevant because of the red in the ledger limiting him to only 1 action, though he doesn't really have the resources to support it anyway. So 1 card that Take Aim is intimidated by the Barraging Bighorn discarding a card. That, or rather by Rhinar's ability, where when you discard a card with 6 or more attack during your action phase, Intimidate, this ability is a good way to kind of turn a negative into a positive. And by that I mean, so he has this, the negative for him is this, these cards that have an additional effect where you have to discard a card to play them as an additional cost. But Rhinar turns that negative into a positive by turning that additional cost into an opportunity to intimidate your opponent. So if this is defended by less than 2 non-equipment cards, it has Go Again. But unfortunately for Sent here, the Go Again isn't relevant. Ooh, wow. Demagogue takes 6. Okay, Demagogue is playing very risky here. This is so interesting. If he gets heavily intimidated, that could just be game over immediately. So this is going to be a very interesting situation. Is he going to be able to close out the game without letting his opponent get out a big Intimidate turn? Because a big Intimidate turn could kill him. Now we're seeing the Skullbone Crosswrap used to opt. The top card is Scar for a Scar. Oh man, that's actually a really good one. He should replace it. It's not an arrow, but Scar for a Scar. Oh, but he doesn't have another arrow. Okay. So maybe he doesn't want to do it. No, he's going to leave it on top. Yeah, the problem though is that he doesn't have an... Oh, but he could rapid fire? Yeah, okay, so he's going to rapid fire, so his arrows gain Go Again. And then he's going to shoot this Endless Arrow, so this is actually going to be a really good turn. So he has the Endless Arrow coming in at strength 4, and if it hits, it goes back to the hand. It has Go Again, so his opponent really wants to block it, because if not, he can put it back in the hand and then potentially just reload and fire it again. So it's a very dangerous situation. This is actually a really strong hand from Demagogue, and I think it's conceivable he'll close the game this turn. So 4 and if it so 4 with go again, and if it hits, draw a card. Or I'm sorry, not draw a card. If it hits, that card goes back to hand. Demagogue says, "Sec, let me think of something." I think this is good. I think he wants to just play this. He could take aim first. I don't think taking aim first is that good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. He's thinking about his options. Sent might be using this time to think about his own defense options. So he does have a defense reaction, the springboard somersault. The problem with this is it's only going to defend for 2 while it's in hand, which is not good. But it could be if he can get it into his arsenal, it will be able to defend for 4 as a defense reaction in the future, which would be very strong. Having a defense reaction in arsenal is also a good way to get around dominate, because playing a defense reaction from arsenal does not count as the 1 card from hand that you're allowed to use to defend with dominate. So you can potentially block with 1 card, then use your defense reaction from arsenal, and essentially have a 2-card defense. Okay, so he does opt to play the take aim, and then he's going to follow up with the endless arrow. So this is coming in at strength, I believe, 7. Yeah, red take aim. So it's coming in at strength 7, and if it hits, it will have go again. So now, this is a tough call. I think so. Sent could actually stop this by double blocking and using his tunic, and that would block all 7 because the tunic does have 1 point of armor with blade break, and I think that could prevent this attack from getting through. He could also use, he could use a triple block from hand, but that'd be very dangerous. The thing is, this does have go again, so he's got to be worried about what other options Demagogue has and what might come at him after this arrow. No block. Oh, he's going bold. He's going to take 7 damage. I think he must be hoping that he can somehow live through this turn and kill his opponent with a huge attack, but I don't think it's going to pan out. 1 life. The problem now is, he's in trouble. Alright, so Death Dealer used 2. That's going to draw the scar. He's going to draw the scar, put the endless arrow back. Then he can shoot the endless arrow again, and then he can follow it up with an E-strike. Oh, I think this is game. I do not think that Sent is going to be able to defend against this. So arrow coming in for 4. He's going to have to block with 1 card from hand and then with his tunic, I think, to keep things alive here. I don't know. I think Sent's dead. I don't think he can stop this, because this has go again. He has to block it completely, but then there's going to be an E-strike for 7. And I don't think he has enough block. So he has he has 9, 10, 11. He has 12 block in total. Yeah, well, he could. I think he can maybe use all of his resources to block this and stay alive, actually. Okay, so he blocks for 4. Yeah, because he's going to have 8 left. He has 8 defense in hand, and then this E-strike 7 is going to close out the turn, I think, but it won't end the game. It will just force Sent to block with everything he has. Although I think the game will then end on the next turn if Demagogue can do a dominated arrow. E-strike 7. Enlightened Strike, one of the best cards in the game, comes in at strength 5 base with 3 defense for 0 cost. It does cause you to put a card from your hand on the bottom of your deck as an additional cost, but then you can choose to either have come in at strength 7, have you draw a card, or give it go again. I personally would go for 7 here. I think draw a card would maybe be a good option in some circumstances, but I think he just wants to keep the pressure at the maximum, so I would do E-strike 7. If your opponent doesn't have, if his opponent had a potion in hand, E-strike 7 would actually just win the game also. So I think you got to go for the 7 and try to just do maximum damage. Now, if there were a 4 strength defense reaction in hand, he could defend it with 2 cards. That would be maybe dangerous, but I don't think it's that bad. I think you just go for 7. It's really between 7 and draw. He does go for the draw. Okay. So the draw is going to give him a card in arsenal for the next turn. That's definitely something that Ranger likes to have, and it is still going to force out a double block in this situation. But I think it's actually going to give Sent a bit of an opportunity here, because he'll be able to either swing with his club or throw his springboard somersault into Arsenal and get that defense reaction to Arsenal ready. I think just going for the pure damage here is going to be the better option because it will force a 3-card block unless the opponent has a defense reaction. And there is a defense reaction, but unless there's a defense reaction that can be played for a low price. For a low price at its full strength. I mean, I guess we could also see, like, I don't know, he does 7 and then in response it's like pitch and play red unmovable or something. But I don't know if he's running unmovable. I think we saw an unmovable earlier this game actually, did we? Yeah, we did. So he if he had this red unmovable, he could pitch for 3 and then play that to block all 7. He goes for the 6 block, and then so he is gonna stay alive, but Demagogue does have the card in Arsenal. This is gonna give Sent the opportunity to either swing his club or put that card in Arsenal. One interesting fact is that if Demagogue gets down to 2 life, he instantly dies to Reckless Swing. So swinging the club, if he doesn't block, would potentially allow for an instant kill. Oh, and there's the Reckless Swing in hand, but he didn't go for the attack. He put the card in Arsenal. So we're not going to see that potential outcome. And to be fair, I also think Demagogue would probably block. At least if he's experienced with this matchup, he would know that going down to 2 life or less against Brute is extraordinarily dangerous. He does have some nice attack buffs here. We see the Skullbone Crosswrap being used, revealing the Rapid Fire, and he gets to look at his top card. It's a Ridge Rider Shot. This is Ridge Rider Shot Red. He might want to keep this. This is not a very good attack necessarily, but he honestly probably wants to keep it just for the Dominate. So I think he plays out. I think he plays out some stuff here. You know, I think he should play his Nimbleism, play his Rapid Fire, or no, he doesn't want to do that. Yeah, he only wants to play the Nimbleism. Or no, Rapid Fire reloads. Yeah, so he should play Nimbleism. Oh, you know what? He should play Rapid Fire, and then it reloads, so he can put his Plunder Run into Arsenal and play. Oh no, and play. No, no, never mind. He doesn't want to do that because he wants Dominate more than he wants that. I think. Ranger's a complicated class. You know, I keep seeing these lines of play that are really cool in some ways, but also substantially flawed. And that's kind of the way that Ranger works sometimes. You know, you have some stuff you can do that's really sweet, but there's also, you know, there's enough complexity to it. You have to get all the little pieces to line up. He could play that Nimbleism he has in hand, plus the Rapid Fire, and then reload with the Flock of the Featherwalkers, which he probably doesn't want to play, and then shoot. Use Azalea's ability to swap it for that arrow. No, he's going to use that immediately. Okay. I would probably play it. Yeah, so I think in this situation, I would probably want to play the Rapid Fire to give go again because it then reloads. Reload with the Flock of the Featherwalkers, then have that be the card that you send away. Play the Nimbleism and shoot. And then if that attack doesn't kill him because of the Rapid Fire, he could still use Death Dealer to load the Ridge Rider shot and then shoot that. And he would get, you know, he would essentially get a second attack. Okay, so he's going to... No, he is going to... Okay, so he's not going to do that. Okay, so he's going to do it like this. I think this is a little worse, but we'll see. We'll see if it pans out for him. So the Ridge Rider shot actually itself lets you opt. So he gets to opt 1, but it doesn't really matter because Azalea's ability is once per turn. If Azalea's ability was not once per turn, it would be completely insane because you could just go through your deck until you found whatever you wanted. Luckily, it is once per turn. I think this is going to be... Yeah, so I think he's going to use the Nimbleism. Yeah, there's the Nimbleism, so that's +3. I don't think he actually... Well, okay, he plays the Plunder Run anyway. So this is going to give him... if it hits, it will draw. And then he's just got to shoot. See, I would have liked to see that Rapid Fire played here. I think that would let him put together a more threatening turn. That's okay, though. It's still a very threatening turn because he is coming in for 7 Dominate, and if it hits, it'll draw a card. But the thing is, with that defense reaction ready in Arsenal, there is going to be the opportunity for Sent here to stop it. All he has to do is block with 1 card and then use his All he has to do is block with one card and then use that somersault. Let's see what happens here. He's got to think about what else he wants to do on his turn, of course. But he does have to block with one of his cards that blocks for at least 3, which is unfortunate for him. If he could block with the Tome and use the somersault, he would then actually be able to do a relatively scary turn, because he could do a he could pitch the blue and then play Massacre, and it would then discard the other Massacre, which would be pretty strong. But he's going to be just barely unable to do that, because he does need to stop the he needs to stop the attack completely. So he has to block for 3 and then 4. He could also use the Reckless Swing. Okay, he's going to use the Reckless Swing. That's interesting. I don't think I would have done that. Okay, so then it's Pass, Springboard, and Reckless Swing. So Reckless Swing, as an additional cost to play it, discard a random card. If the discarded card has 6 or more, attack, deal 2 damage. It does. He hits one of the Massacres. That's 2 damage to Demagogue, which sneaks in. Okay, so that is a total of 8 block, which is enough to stop the arrow, and it will do 2 damage to Demagogue. So 2 damage getting through to Demagogue, and damage from defense reactions is unblockable. There's nothing you can do to stop it except for play Bonehead Barrier, I believe. And there isn't an attack reaction, so that means this turn is over for Demagogue. He does get to put something into Arsenal, though. I'd personally put the Flock into Arsenal. You want to keep the Ridge Rider shot because it has better defense, and if he gets the opportunity to activate its ability later, it could be good. It does go with the Ridge Rider shot, though. I don't know. You know, Ranger's complicated. He accidentally sees his top card, which is E-Strike. He accidentally drew too much. In a real tournament, this would be a penalty. Drawing too much, then putting one card back on top actually is a big advantage for Ranger because it gives you information, but to be fair, he would have been able to get that information with his cross wrap anyway. So it's kind of one of those things. However, I do think this turn... Oh, man. The Scab Skin Leather is being rolled. Okay, so this card, roll a die, gain action points equal to half the number rolled, rounded down. So he rolls and doesn't get anything extra. And then he hits his Gambler's Glove to reroll, and he rerolls and still doesn't get anything extra. Brutal. Really not what he wants to see at all. So what he was hoping to do is get an extra action, at least one extra action point. Then he can pitch and play this Tome of Fyendal to draw 2 cards. I don't know. That's actually not very good. Because it isn't an Arsenal, so it wouldn't heal him, and it would just replace the 2 cards that he had with 2 different cards. But in a desperate situation, maybe that's all you want. I think he's probably going to end up pitching the Tome of Fyendal to just swing his club. But I think he's dead, because I think we're going to see Nimble Strike here. So this is a card you can banish as an additional cost to play Nimble Strike. You may banish a card named Nimbleism from your graveyard. If you do, Nimble Strike gets +1 and Go Again. So that's Strength 5 with Go Again. Coming in because there is a Nimbleism, and he has multiple buffs that he can play and then do another strong attack. I just don't see how Scent's going to survive for another turn. Especially with an E-Strike on the top of the deck, which we just saw. I don't think Scent is going to have the opportunity to survive here. I think he's going to get killed. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be pitch and club. It is going to force a defense. And actually, there is something nice about this, which is Demagogue is going to have to block with 2 cards. Because if he blocks with 1 card and goes down to 2 health, he will actually be killed by a Reckless Swing. So he's got to play conservative here and defend with multiple cards, because 2 is a critical breakpoint against Brute. You can't go down to 2. So I think we're probably going to see him block, I don't know, maybe he blocks with Flock and with, I don't know. It's kind of tough. Block with Flock and take aim, maybe? That's probably what I would do. Yeah, block with Flock and take aim. He's only blocking with 1 of them. Demagogue goes down to 1 life. He could lose this game. If there's a Reckless Swing in Scent's next hand, Sent is going to be able to actually close out the game with a reckless swing and make an incredible comeback. Does he have it? No reckless swing. No reckless swing. Okay. Demagogue made a very risky play there, but it did pay off for him. He uses the Skullbone Crosswrap. He knows the top card is an E-Strike. Okay, so I think if I'm Demagogue, here's what I do. I use Azalea's ability to put the E-Strike into Arsenal. Then I play Nimbleism, use my Tunic to play Nimble Strike, banish one of the past Nimbleisms. So this Nimble Strike is now coming in for 8 with Go Again. And then I follow up with E-Strike 7, that's 15 damage, and that's the game. The opponent cannot defend 15 and would have to have an extremely lucky hand to defend 15. Actually, that's not true. If he had a defense reaction in Arsenal, he would be able to defend it, but it would cost him all his stuff, which would then mean there would be an opportunity. We'll see. He's going to use it. E-Strike in the Arsenal. He should use his Tunic. Okay, I think he should use Tunic for Nimble Strike and banish a Nimbleism. So Nimble Strike coming in at strength 4 base, but it's going to get the +1 and Go Again. He does banish a Nimbleism, so strength 5 with Go Again. That is going to merit a double block, and then he can play Nimbleism into E-Strike 7, and that's game. Because that's going to come in for 10, and his opponent is not going to be able to defend that. The Nimbleism Nimble Strike combo, not necessarily seen that often in constructed play. You know, it can be potentially strong in sealed or in draft if you're going to hit the if you hit enough cards to enable it. But actually pretty good here when you're going to be playing those Nimbleisms as attack buffs anyway. There is the double block to stop that Nimble Strike, so blocking 6 against a strength 5 attack. But now he can play the Nimbleism from hand and buff his E-Strike up to strength 10, and that's going to be the game. Nimbleism from hand, +3. Followed up by the E-Strike, and Sent just types GG. That is the game. Oh, what a game it was. So, good play there by Demagogue with the Ranger managing to be very aggressive here, really control tempo against the Brute, and eventually close out the game with those Go-Agains. Now, Demagogue, I think, did play a little risky. I would not have gone down to 1 life against a Brute, because if there is a Reckless Swing, that's game over. And since that I had a hope and a prayer when you went to 1 HP that I draw this. Yeah, so he did have that hope where if he had hit the Reckless Swing, he could have closed out the game and won almost regardless of what Demagogue had. So it could have been the game. And I mentioned that Breakpoint article that I have on my site earlier. If you go to 2 life or less against a Brute, you're risking an instant death because a Reckless Swing that discards and hits a thing with big attack will deal 2 damage to the attacking hero. That attack can't be blocked. That's an instant kill. So, yeah. Sent says he tries to hold out for big turns while playing defensively and just attacking with his club and barraging. Also, Command and Conquer was at the bottom. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting. I think that the defensive strategy there for Sent didn't work out all that well necessarily. I think in some cases he might have been too defensive, but I think he would have... I think that the Dominate made it difficult to defend effectively against all those Ranger attacks, as did the potential big Go-Again plays. I think that one thing that would have improved Sent's chances would be using the Arcanite Skullcap, perhaps, rather than the Skullhorn, as the Skullhorn's random draw and discard thing didn't really benefit him, but the Arcanite Skullcap defense would have helped him block. Additionally, I think he over-defended against the Red in the Ledgers early, using his Scabskin Leathers to do so and to stop an on-hit effect that wasn't relevant, because the fact that he was defending so heavily meant that he was only going to do 1 action anyway. I think it would have been better to allow a bit of damage in and keep that equipment block on the Leathers for when it's really important. Nevertheless, though, very interesting game, guys. That's going to do it for this stream. So thanks to the players for letting me stream this game. thanks to the viewers for checking this out, and we'll be coming back to you later with some more flesh and blood content. I will talk to you guys later.